Right now? Right now. Hi, I'm Dr. Sonnee Weedn, and thanks for waiting for me. I ran behind. I'm Sonnee Weedn. I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist in California. And I have offices both in Northern and Southern California. And I thought I would spend a moment telling you about how I came to be doing this work, 8 Ways to Wellbeing for Recovering People. I had a wonderful mentor. Her name was Angeles Arian. And before she died, she said, I want you to meet my good friend, Dr. Roger Walsh. Roger is a psychiatrist and a psychologist at University of California at Irvine. And I thought, I'd love to meet Roger Walsh. He writes prolifically. I love what he writes on spirituality. And but why am I meeting him? I'm a clinician. I see patients all day, every day in my office. He's an academic, he's a teacher. And she said, oh, you're going to work together. And I just couldn't imagine how that was going to be. So I met Roger Walsh, and he at the time was working on something called 8 Ways to Wellbeing. And he had extensively researched, if you want to optimize your mental health, what do you do? What should you do to optimize your mental health? And he had come up with 8 things that if you do them consistently, who does anything actually consistently? But if you do them, mindfully as best you can, you will optimize your mental health. And he wrote it for all people. So I had received an invitation to speak at the Tibetan Medical Society in Dharamsala, India. The Dalai Lama had wanted to bring together Western and Eastern mental health professionals to share ideas about how to treat mental health issues. And I was given a topic to speak on. And the topic was remedies for disturbing factors in body, mind, life. And I thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to talk about? Remedies for disturbing factors in body, mind, life. And then I thought about Roger's work in 8 Ways to Wellbeing. And he had tried to have it made into a PBS special so that everybody would have the advantage of knowing these things. But that takes a great deal of money, and he'd not been able to raise the money. I called him and I said, may I present 8 Ways at the Tibetan Medical Society? And he said, of course, go ahead, Sonnee. You can have everything. Take my film. Go for it. So I did that. I presented 8 Ways to Wellbeing for all people. And it was well received. It's an international audience, and so I wanted something that was relevant. Sometimes psychology, the way we practiced it in Western countries, is not relevant around the world. And this was really relevant. They loved it. They had great questions. And when I was flying home from India, which is a very long flight, I was thinking, somebody needs to take this work and make it into a workbook so that it's really usable, so people can access it and they can use it. And well, who's that person going to be? It's going to be me. And who do I most want to create it for first? And I thought, I want to give this information to the recovering community. Much of my work over the years, I've specialized in chemical dependency treatment, diagnosis and treatment. And I really wanted people to have this information in the recovering community. So
I just want to interrupt you one quick second. They assured me you can have the whole hour. So
yep.
I didn't know that. I wanted to let you know. So
great. So anyway, I set about to write this workbook for the recovering community specifically. It's the same concepts that Roger taught about. So what you're going to see in my presentation is 8 Ways to Wellbeing for Recovering People. And I'll tell you, there is a video involved, so you're going to get to see the video that was made about it. And so here we go. You're looking at my first slide, I believe, or the second slide. Our modern civilization has brought us just wonderful, wonderful stuff in terms of lifestyle. We have great ease. We have dishwashers, we have computers, we have all kinds of things that actually really do contribute and make life easier. No longer are people hanging their wash outdoors and doing dishes by hand necessarily. There's a lot of modern convenience. But one of the difficulties is it has brought us indoors under artificial light. Also, oftentimes coming into contact with more people in one day, either actually meeting them or virtually, than our foremothers saw an entire lifetime, So this modern civilization has come quickly. Certainly, there have been big changes in my lifetime, and not all of them have been helpful in terms of really helping us to live a healthy lifestyle. If you go to the grocery store, for example, and you buy food in a package, it can be very convenient, or if you buy fast food, but that doesn't necessarily mean it works well for you in terms of mental and physical health. So you're looking at this slide that says clearly we not only benefit from modern civilization, but we also suffer from it. And I think it's important for you to know the ways that we benefit and the ways that we suffer for it so that you can make adjustments. So an unhealthy lifestyle is going to foster all kinds of difficulties. If you eat a lot of processed food, you're going to be overweight. There's no question about it. And worse than that, really, is that processed food does not have the nutrients available in it, or perhaps they've been added artificially, but there's nothing like the natural thing. So one of the things that has happened, certainly in my lifetime, it's even more so during this pandemic that we're experiencing now, is that there's an increase in loneliness. There's an increase in poor nutrition. There's an increase in anxiety and depression. We're seeing all of those numbers go up. And a great deal of it has to do with lifestyle. So what I'm going to be talking about, what you're going to be seeing and hearing, is about something that Roger calls therapeutic lifestyle change. And I want you to really hear that. You can use lifestyle change as therapy. And sometimes the therapeutic lifestyle changes will actually do better than medication. And they're cheaper, certainly. And so it's a nice thing to be able to get off medication by using therapeutic lifestyle change, if at all possible. Addiction is definitely a lifestyle disease. I think you all know that. And so when you start changing, moving into recovery, that's a lifestyle right there. And then if you begin adding other therapeutic lifestyle changes, life is definitely going to get better. So what are these therapeutic lifestyle changes? I'm going to read them off of this particular slide. You can reduce your psychological symptoms and your suffering by making therapeutic lifestyle changes. More than symptom relief. Symptom relief is great. We'll take it. But more than relieving symptoms, you'll become happier. You'll be mentally clearer for sure. You'll have more energy and you'll be intellectually sharper. I mean, who wouldn't want to be that? I want to be that, intellectually sharper and mentally clearer. It will increase your energy for sure. You will have more energy. You will enhance performance and have a sense of well-being and increase your longevity. I'm going to be showing you in more specific ways how you increase your longevity, live longer, but also live better. What is the point of living longer if you're suffering, or have chronic illness that's debilitating? So we want to live longer, but we want to live better while we're doing it. We're going to increase all aspects of anti-aging. And it says something about telomeres. I can't tell you all about telomeres, but there's something at the end of your chromosomes. And as the telomeres deteriorate, you age. So we want to do anti-aging things. We're going to increase feelings of gratitude. Gratitude is a powerful, powerful feeling. The more gratitude we have, the less we focus on things that are challenging or negative. And one of the really positive things is it increases our awareness of the natural world and ecology. We're really suffering at this time from climate change. I'm in California where the wildfires are. We're incredibly aware of what's happening, and that what happens, at least here, and I understand the smoke has already reached the East Coast, is the air is so bad, and there's particulate in it that causes toxicity for our body, which automatically goes to the brain. So if we're increasing our awareness of the natural world, the healing that being out in nature can do, as well as our awareness of ecology, we're really taking care of ourselves as well as others. So evidence shows that TLCs are a very, very good treatment to prevent and treat psychological disorders. It doesn't seem like, well, what difference does it really make what I eat? for example? Well, it actually makes a huge difference. Maybe not today, but the effects are cumulative. So we want to have the cumulative effects of a good diet, good exercise, as well as the other therapeutic lifestyle changes that I'm going to tell you about in a minute. If you realize, for example, that if you put on sunscreen, you're protecting your skin from the sun. Sun damage to your skin is cumulative. I'm a woman who grew up at the beach in Newport Beach, and I went to the beach every single day, and there was no such thing as sunscreen in that time, and I was a kid and I wouldn't have used it anyway, most likely. Well, the damage from that sun exposure, the sunburns, the peeling, the getting tan, all of that, didn't show up immediately that day, didn't show up 5 years later, didn't show up 10 years later. It's showing up now in my life. And I haven't been out in the sun without sunscreen in about 1,000,000 years, but the damage was cumulative. It is the same, by the way, with drugs and alcohol. The damage is not necessarily immediate, it's cumulative. So you won't notice it today, you won't notice it tomorrow, but you're going to notice it down the road where you're not as sharp because you've got toxic exposure to the brain. And you've harmed your body. You know, the physical mechanics of your body have been harmed. It takes a long time, as you know, for all of that to come together, which is really part of my writing this workbook so that you would have information that's going to help you get from here to there, from the damage to the recovery. So Dr. Walsh was very, not discouraged, but disappointed that more mental health providers have not emphasized lifestyle change as part of a psychotherapy. So, you know, typically you land in a therapist's office and they begin asking you about issues of family and work and relationship and so forth. But it's unusual for a therapist to ask you about therapeutic lifestyle change and to have necessarily done their own research about this. And it's one of the reasons that Dr. Walsh wanted to get this information out to the general public, because so many people don't know that therapeutic lifestyle change will absolutely improve your mental health. That's true for everyone. It's particularly true for recovering people. So when you have toxic exposure to the brain, from alcohol or drugs of any kind, you're going to have a poor tolerance for stress. Now, I want to talk about this for a minute. It's very important. Oftentimes, as you all know, recovering people have a high rate of relapse. Whatever kind of treatment you get, there's a high rate of relapse. One of the reasons is that the toxicity to the brain has caused you to not tolerate stress very well. And you know, every day is filled with stresses of different kinds. Sometimes it's a little bitty stress, like you just had to stop at stop signs, like I just did a few minutes ago, 20 times before you get to your destination. That's stress, you know. Sometimes it's big stress, the loss of a job or the loss of a relationship or your pet died. What we really want is resilience so that the stresses come and we can tolerate those bumps. You know, it may set us back for a moment, but we bounce back. That's brain resilience. Drugs and alcohol reduce our ability to bounce back. Combine that with poor impulse control, which is very typical for people who are beginning recovery. So you have a stress that comes, you have poor impulse control, and what does the person want to do? They want relief, quick. I'm suffering, I want relief. So they will drink or use. Or I didn't mention process addictions, but you know, there's eating disorder, there's shopping, there's all the sex, all the process addictions that behave in the same way. The stress comes, I want to do the thing that comforts me, all right? So if you can improve your ability to tolerate stress and your impulse control, you're on the way to having a more solid recovery. In addition, there's the poor judgment that happens. You know, oftentimes recovering people need to improve their judgment so that they're able to make good decisions. Many recovering people complain about brain fog. And again, this is about the toxicity to the brain. And so if you can improve your lifestyle habits, that brain fog is more likely to reduce. So what are the 8 ways to well-being? I've mentioned a couple of them, but I want to go around the wheel here. I have to turn my head and refer to it here and there so I make sure I don't forget anything and tell you what they are. And this, again, this is not coming from Sonnee Weedn. This is from the research of Dr. Roger Walsh at the University of California at Irvine. Here they are. Exercise, of course, so important. There's more and more information out there every day that exercise is a huge anti-aging lifestyle change. It reduces depression. It reduces anxiety. You really need to move your body. We're made to move. And get out there and hike or bike or go to the gym, whatever it is. Do it regularly and vigorously. Second is nutrition, which I already mentioned. Clean up your food. Get rid of processed food if you can. If it comes in a package, try not to buy it. And go as naturally and as organically as you possibly can. Organically, so that you reduce the presence of pesticide, which again is not good for your brain or your body. Relaxation. Now, in Roger's work, he did not particularly focus on mindfulness, although he's a big mindfulness guy. I'll tell you a little aside about Roger. I'll call him for something. His recorder will say, I'm on a 30-day silent retreat. So Roger's a big mindfulness guy, but he wrote relaxation is what do you do to relax every day? I wrote in my chapter a lot about mindfulness, about having a meditation practice or a mindfulness practice. Really relax your body and check out for a little while and check in with your inner life. So relaxation, make sure it's there every day. Recreation, what do you do for fun? What do you do for fun? Do you do sports? Do you do video games? Do you have hobbies where you build models or you quilt or you needlepoint or you sew for your grandchildren? What do you do for fun that you can really say, wow, that was really fun. I played cards with my neighbor and we really had a good time. Relationships. Now, when Dr. Walsh is talking relationships, again, he's looking at the research. The research does not say you have to have a partner. In fact, sometimes the partner can be a lot of stress. But it does say have lots of relationships. Be sure to have, some of them will be very casual. Say hello to your mail person. Talk to the vegetable person at the supermarket. Speak to people on the street. But of course, call your friends. Get together with people. This is COVID, I know, but you could still find ways to be safe and be with people. The more people that we have in our lives, the better. So relationships are terribly important. We human beings, we're just basically herd animals, and we want to be with a herd. We want to have a lot of contact, and it improves our mental well-being. Let's see, where have I left off? Giving back, having something that you do for other people that you do not get paid for. Now, sometimes I find that my clients get too grandiose about this, and it sets them back. It's not about changing the world necessarily, although if you have the ability to do that, go right ahead. It's about making muffins for your neighbor or mowing somebody's lawn or picking up trash or some kind of volunteer work that you like. One of my friends works at the food bank on Thursdays, and he packs boxes to be delivered to families that are food insecure at this time. And during COVID, there are a lot of people who are food insecure. So that's a great way of giving back. Find a way to give back on a regular basis. It improves your self-esteem, and it gives you gratitude also for your own blessings. Time in nature. Research shows that if we can spend time in the beauty of nature, we're inspired, and nature is extremely healing. It doesn't matter what sort of nature you're in, whether you live in the desert or you live in the mountains or you live near the beach like I do. If you can just get outdoors, breathe a little fresh air and begin noticing what's around you. When you're on your way from your car to your office, slow down a little bit and look at the landscaping that's around you. Even in the city, there are places to walk and to sit and just observe. I have a friend, Majora Carter, who she's known as called Greening the Ghetto. And she lives in the South Bronx. And she had read a research article in college that said, where there are more trees, there is less crime. Isn't that interesting? Where there are more trees, there is less crime. And so Majora set about to get money. She got some grants to build some parks around her public housing area. And she built a small park, and then she got more money and built a bigger park. And she's got a lot of things going in the South Bronx now, which is not really a place where you would think that there would be parks. So if you have the opportunity to be outdoors every day, my teacher used to say an hour a day, and I find that for me in my lifestyle hard to do. But I try to be aware of getting out, at least onto my porch in the backyard, to look at some birds, watch the birds at the bird feeder, and look at the trees. And I think you'll find that it's relaxing and inspiring. You know, maybe you've read some articles recently, because it's been in the news more recently, about the Japanese doing something called forest bathing. And they had discovered that if you walk in a forest for 90 minutes, your heart rate will go down, your anxiety will go down, your depression will go down, you'll be relaxed. And so I know here in Southern California, there's a big wellness park under construction. And one of the things they're putting in there is a forest specifically for forest bathing, so that people that come to the wellness center can go out and walk in a forest and smell the trees and put their hands on the bark of the trees and feel it and just be in the presence of beautiful nature. Lastly, I think I've hit them all except for the last one. I have spirituality. So the research says that people who attend religious services once a week live 7 or 8 years longer than the average. And I'm not advocating, and neither is Roger particularly, that you attend religious services. I'm just telling you that that's what the research says. We don't know exactly why that is, but we have some suspicion that it has to do with community. If you belong to a religious community, you know, there's people, and there are people who care about you and think about you, and there's opportunities for giving back. Also, the comfort of whatever your belief system is. People find belief very comforting. If it's a religion that emphasizes things like gratitude, forgiveness, kindness, integrity, as opposed to the hellfire and damnation, tends not to be comforting. But in terms of spirituality, if you will develop your own spiritual practice, whatever that might be, it will be incredibly helpful to you. And not from the standpoint of, well, I'm spiritual but not religious, and then that's it. But really, what do I do that increases my sense of spirituality and my connection to the divine, however I perceive that to be? So whoever's doing the slides, on this slide, you have to wait a minute for that little arrow to come up, because now you're going to get to watch about a 15-minute video. And I hope you enjoy it. It was a gift to me, and I think it's pretty good at explaining the concepts I've been talking about. So I'm going to sit back and watch with you.
Well, hang on. I don't know that we have the ability to do that, because the slides, they download across the top. So Kenny or Roger or RT or Stephen, if you guys know if we can pull the video up from that. But otherwise, I don't know that we do. If there's a link for the video, we can.
It is on YouTube,
Okay.
actually, and it's on YouTube as 8 Ways to Wellbeing for Recovering People, and it's the number 8.
Okay. And
So
I
let's
don't
see.
know if you played it on your computer, if it would pull.
Well, I don't know.
Because right now the camera is on. So we haven't during the series played any videos.
All right.
Because
So
I
should
don't
we
know that
hold on just a second and see if they can play
I'm
it?
waiting to see if they
Okay.
have any information on that.
Okay.
But otherwise, I would say proceed with some of the other things, and we can share the link with people so they can find the YouTube as well. So
Okay.
I am also going to invite you, if you have questions, you can IM them to me, and I will share them with Dr. Sonnee, and she can answer them for you. But yeah, well, first of all, and I hope that you are downloading there at Sonnee D. Weedn in the blue bar across the top of your screen. Those are the slides to download. I hope you have downloaded them. I like all your slides, but the one that has the wheel with the 8 ways to well-being and stairs. I mean, into the sun. It's such a beautiful visual. And I thought,
It
and
is.
that's really what it is. It's up and down. Like that's our life.
That's our
our
life.
up and down. So,
Yep.
Oh, it says, sorry, what is the link so we can pull it up on the top box? Oh, that's a great idea. Okay.
Well, I'm going to say something about this video. You know, it was not my intention to make a video. I didn't know how to do it. And a lovely gentleman sent a videographer to me, and the videographer said, I've been sent to make a video of your 8 ways to well-being, because my benefactor, the man who paid for it, really, really likes this work. And so, it was all new for me, how to make a video. And so he was great. He said, well, you go home and write the script. And I'm like, write the script? I don't know how to write a script. But whether you see it right now or whether you pull it up yourself on YouTube, I think it turned out really well. I think it's a very good visual reminder of what the 8 ways are and the value of them.
I just gave them the link, and I actually have, when I pulled it up, I was like, oh, I had watched the video, and it is very well done and very helpful. So hopefully we can get it. I think we're trying to get it in the box to share. Oh, there you go. Yes, this person. Yeah. So
is it going to work?
Yeah. I don't know if can you hear that? I can hear it, but I don't know if you can. Okay.
I can. Okay. I don't
that
have
was through the chat. So sorry, that didn't work, but I don't. So if you do YouTube, 8 ways to well-being
for recovering people.
If you just do that, it pulls it up. So
it pulls it up.
Yes.
So shall I go on?
Please. Okay. We'll proceed.
So I'm going to talk about each one of these areas that I've already explained in a little bit more detail. I told you already that research indicates that 90 minutes of walking in nature lowers the risk of depression by decreasing activity in regions of the brain associated with key factors in depression. So that's important to know, that you can reduce your depression and your anxiety, by the way, by getting outdoors and walking. And actually, if you're outdoors walking, you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone of the 8 ways, because you're getting exercise and you're walking outdoors. If you walk with a friend or your partner, you got 3. You're getting relationship in there as well. It's so important to find a way to be in nature. Usually there's at least something around where you live or where you work where you can walk. Remember that right now, at least 50% of the world's population are city dwellers. Most of us are in the city, but it's predicted that it won't be long before it's 70%. So if you think about our ancestors were outdoors usually all the time, working all day as farmers. It wasn't until the Industrial Revolution came that people were working indoors. So if you're talking about, human evolution, we've shifted very quickly to being indoors. If you're indoors, try to at least have some natural light. I have fluorescent lights in my office, but I can open my blinds and look out, and there's natural light coming in. So that's important. Did you know people born and raised in cities are more likely to develop schizophrenia? It's an interesting fact. I don't think anybody knows why for certain. Certainly there's more pollution typically in cities. Car exhaust and those kinds of things exist. We don't really know why, but it is a fact. So the more you can get outdoors, the better. The other thing that I really like, I like taking my clients outdoors, and I will oftentimes give them an assignment. I will say, I want you to see what kind of animals you can see. Now, typically, if you're just sitting in a park, you're not going to see a lot of animals, but you'll see birds almost always. Sometimes you may see squirrels or chipmunks, small, or you'll see insects. There are insects pretty much everywhere. And watch them and see what you can learn. So I'll use nature as a metaphor. For example, I might say, I want you to observe ants. Just observe the ants and see what you can learn. Come back and tell me about the ants. Well, if I were doing that exercise, I would say they get a lot done and they only have little tiny feet. Maybe I can get a lot done too. I'm bigger and boy, they get a lot done. I can learn about their teamwork. They really generally work as a team. How am I at teamwork? Good, not so good, depends. Um, so just that little observation, I may learn something. They're very industrious. Ants don't just hang around, I don't think, and play video games. They're very industrious. So I can learn a lot just by watching some ants. I can take some metaphors that I learn for myself, or I take the information for myself. We're coming this week is the autumn equinox. I think it's like on the 21st or the 22nd of this month. And in autumn, what begins to happen in nature is many of the trees start losing their leaves. Now, an important metaphor about that is, first of all, they let go very gracefully. What is it in my life that I need to let go of? And how can I do it gracefully? But also, it's interesting to note that the leaf does not let go until there's a spore for the new leaf present. So when I'm letting go of something, I can almost be certain that there's something else coming that's going to be important for me. And I don't have to worry about letting go because I'm making room for the new life that's coming in the spring. So it's those kinds of metaphors that I like to use with my clients. Those are just two quick ones. Sometimes in my own training, I did long vision quests, 3-4 days by myself in nature. And my teacher would give me certain assignments that I was to do just sitting, not walking around, not hiking, sitting. So you can imagine if you're sitting outdoors, sleeping at night, of course, like in a tent, but sitting outdoors all day, every day, you're kind of like in a trance after a while. And I learned a lot by just sitting. So I won't give my clients an assignment to sit out for 3 or 4 days, but I will give them an assignment to sit out for an hour. So I want you to sit outdoors for an hour. Don't want you to get up and walk around. And I want you to observe and come back and tell me what you learned about yourself from your observation. So I recommend that to you. Try it. Sit out in your backyard or some open space place for an hour. See what you can learn. I'm going to talk about nutrition. I talked about it a bit earlier. Um, so funny. For most of human history, humans spent all day, every day, just looking for enough food to keep them alive. All right. Uh, Hunting and gathering, that was a full-time job. So here we are now in the 21st century, especially as Americans, where I think it's now like 60% of Americans are overweight. I happen to be one of them, I will confess. And why is that? What has happened? Now, I just talked about this today. I was doing some brain mapping down the road, and I was visiting with the dad of this little girl, and we were talking about how things had changed food-wise since we were children. So this is several decades ago. I said, well, in my high school, Newport Harbor High School, if you bought lunch at school, there were actually people in the kitchen cooking. They started early in the morning, they cooked lunch. And the vending machines had apples and oranges. There was no soda, there was no candy, there was no anything in a package. The apple came out, an apple, the orange came out of the machine, an orange, and that's what there was. And there was not as much variety, really, in my own growing up. There was plenty of food, but not the kind of variety that we have today. Not supermarkets, just row after row after row after row of choices, most everything in packages. So that's what's happened, as well as fast food, which is convenient and cheap with little or no nutritional value. So if you're going to really change your lifestyle and you want to get to an average weight, whether you need to lose or gain, doesn't matter. If you want to get to an average weight, then it's really important to start looking at your food and learning more about nutrition. What is it I need? And there's a ton of books written about this. You can read the labels on packages and on the backs of cans if you're buying canned goods that will give you the nutritional value. Be careful of packaged foods. If there's sugar or corn, you probably don't want to buy it, or corn syrup. So much of what's packaged has sugar in one of the first three ingredients, or corn or soy. And it's not that there's something horribly, horribly wrong with those things. It's just that they're meant to be eaten in moderation as opposed to in everything that you eat. So learn more about nutrition. See what you can do about letting go of things that come in packages. Try to eat organic if you can. Yes, it's more expensive. Yes, it is. But you're saving yourself money on the other on the wellness end, on the being sick, having to pay for doctors and prescriptions and those kinds of things. And you're going to feel better. You're really going to feel better. So, when I gave this talk in India, somebody raised their hand and said, yes, but it's so expensive to eat organic. And I said, 40 years ago, 45 years ago, I was a kindergarten teacher in downtown Los Angeles. And there were a lot of federal funds at that time. And in one of my kindergarten programs, moms came at a certain time during the day. We actually put kids down for a nap, would you believe, these little 5-year-olds. And the moms would come and I would give a nutrition lesson. And then we would cook together whatever the kids were going to have for lunch. These were low-income women. And that was the reason for this federal program, was to teach good nutrition economically so that the women could afford it and they could learn how to do it to feed themselves and their children. If those folks can do it, so can you. So take the time to learn more about what it's going to take for you to have a healthy diet, return to a normal weight through diet and exercise, and you're going to be really glad you did. So I've talked a little bit about exercise, but it's important to know this is a critical piece of mental health. Almost every formal recovery program that I know of includes time in the gym or time outdoors, walking and talking, or something that includes an exercise program. You can do it any way you want to. You do not have to be in the gym lifting weights and running a mile a minute. You can if you want to and if you like doing that. But all you need to do is get out and walk. Find a buddy that will walk with you. It doesn't even have to be hard walks. Old Tammy Verhelst here does these hikes that just knock me out. I can't believe what she does. I'm not doing that. I want to walk on flat ground. I don't want it to be too hard. And it's very doable. Make it doable. Do what you can to start an exercise program and increase it a little bit each day or so. So if all you can do is walk to the end of the driveway and back, so walk to the end of the driveway and back, and then walk to the next driveway and the next driveway. Really get started to move your body. If you can add some weight training in there to increase your muscle mass or to maintain. I'm getting older. I want to maintain what I've got, and I'm not likely to grow more. I want to maintain. So be sure to include exercise. I said earlier, there's just so darn much research about how exercise helps your brain. It really does help your brain. You'll do better. We know that the brain is amazingly responsive and can even increase in size when stimulated by exercise and or meditation. Why not do both? Why not do both? Okay, any kind is good. Any kind is good. But if you can manage to do vigorous exercise for 30 minutes a day, it's going to be really, really helpful. Now, I'll tell you, Tammy knows this. I've just had a knee replacement. Whew, that was hard. But I'm going to physical therapy and I'm walking more. I'm able to walk more and I'm getting my exercise in. So do yourself a favor. Get the nutrition and the exercise together and you're going to really be happy with yourself. Relaxation. I don't know about your life, but I'm going about a mile a minute. And with working online during COVID, and many of you have worked online always because your jobs required it, or that's just the way it was. Taking the time to just check out and relax, possibly laying in a hammock sounds really good, but I think mindfulness is especially helpful. And in the workbook that I wrote, 8 Ways to Wellbeing for Recovering People, mindfulness is really emphasized. You can start by just being quiet. The value of silence is very much underappreciated. Many of us, though, have trouble with just closing our eyes and having our bodies be still and being silent. 52,000 little things race through our minds, including the grocery list for tonight's dinner. That's okay. If it's too much and it's bothering you to do that, I mean, usually with enough practice, that will stop and you'll be able to go inside and really have a meditation where oftentimes important messages come to you. There's no question about that. People who are meditators will tell you that some of their greatest inspiration comes from their meditation. But if you're a beginner, start with an app on your phone. There's so many of them. I like Rest and Relax, or is it Relax and Rest? It's one or the other. There's Calm, there's the Insight Timer. There are many, many things. Maybe there's a CD that you really love that's soft music or a guided meditation that will really help you settle down, go inward. Start with 5 minutes and try to get it to 20 minutes a day. And you know, it will take a while. I would say it's going to take you 3 to 6 months to really get going in this mindfulness thing. But do it anyway. Your body and your mind are going to thank you. You're going to open your eyes from that little time out and be refreshed. You're going to be sharper. If you're working, if you're at work, you're going to be refreshed and able to come back to your work refreshed and with new ideas, new approach, perhaps. If it's after work at the end of the day, actually same thing. You'll be able to move into your evening activities refreshed instead of exhausted. Many people like to do their mindfulness work at the beginning of the day. And so I recommend that as well. It's a great way to start the day, to just be quiet and to have a morning meditation. I'm going to give you a quick aside. The Oracle of Tibet, who is the right hand to the Dalai Lama, came to the United States 2 years ago, and I got him to meet with a whole gang, a couple hundred recovering people. People were hanging from the chandelier, literally, in order to see the Oracle. And somebody in the audience said, "Tell me what an average day is like for you. What's an average day like?" And he said, "Well, before I open my eyes in the morning, I say a prayer, may I not hurt any sentient being. And then I look at my breakfast tray, and here is my morning meditation. I see my tea, and I say, thank you to the farmer who grew the tea. And thank you to the truck driver who drove the tea to the market. And thank you to the market man who put the tea out, and to my helper who bought the tea and brought it here. And thank you to the person who, the ceramicist, the potter who made my cup." And he goes through his whole breakfast tray and gives thanks for what is on it. And I thought, what a wonderful morning meditation. Pretty easy to do. That's not a hard one. So I recommend it to you. Sometimes people really want to be active. They just don't tolerate the sitting. You can do walking meditation. You can do standing meditation. You can do lying down meditation. You can do a martial art, because martial arts, many of them are meditative. Tai Chi is meditative, for example. But if you're a person who this is just not my cup of tea, well, just do some quiet reading. That'll be good enough. But make sure you get relaxation in. Giving back. What do you want to do for other people? Now, here we are. We're coming up on an election. There's a lot of volunteer work you can do at your local political office if you like that idea. Some people don't want to have anything to do with that. There's about a million things you can do, because there are needy people, needy pets, all kinds of things that need to be done in your local community and right in your neighborhood. So you don't have to make it be overwhelming. In fact, don't make it be overwhelming. Make it something you can do. If you can go down to the Humane Society on Saturdays and make arrangements to wash dogs, wonderful. Or play with the cats and dogs to keep them socialized so they're more likely to be adopted, good. If you can offer to babysit for a neighbor so that they can go shopping without having a couple little kids hanging on them, wonderful. If you can make a pan of brownies and pass them out in your neighborhood, good. Whatever it is you can do. You know, I mentioned earlier I'd had this knee replacement. A couple of my friends just came and sat with me when I, was really, really suffering. They just sat there and chatted with me, and it was so, so valuable to me. So Send a greeting card to a friend or do something and keep track of it. In my workbook, you'll see that there are pages where you can keep track of what you're doing so that you can stay on top of all of this and remember where you are and see the places where you're doing really, really well, and then also keep track of what needs work. So find how you can give back. You're going to notice when you do it that you're going to feel better about yourself. We each have something to give. Everybody has something to give. So don't think that you don't. You do. Big part of recovery, by the way, if you have a sponsor, I'm sure they're encouraging you to take a commitment. That's a giving back, passing out literature, making coffee, whatever it happens to be, setting up chairs or taking them down. Do what you can to give back. Relationships. This is a huge topic. This is a huge topic. It includes many, many things. So if you are partnered, if you're a person with a partner, married or in some form of partnership, same sex, opposite sex, whatever, there is a lot of education out there for improving your relationship. There's education for marriage. There's education for engagement. There are books to read about relationship. Find a good couples therapist to help you improve your relationship. Relationships, good relationships don't just happen. There are actually habits to be learned that improve your relationship. Pick up one of John Gottman's books about relationship and see what you can learn about doing better in your relationship. We all have room for improvement. But beyond your partnership, be in contact with friends. If you don't have many friends, set out to make some. There are people out there who need a friend, and you're available. Be sure to call the friends that you do have, check in on them. Make a habit of talking to people in line at the Safeway or the grocery store. I do that. I say, oh, I really like your sweater. That is really beautiful. Where did you get that? I say something to the cashier. Great hairdo. Really like it. I like that blue hair. It's perfect. You know, there's something about making that human connection that's incredibly powerful. So make sure that you do that. Again, you're going to feel better. Recreation. I do group therapy. I have a couple of therapy groups. And a woman in my group was waxing on about the problems that she's facing. She really is. She's got some big things she's facing, big challenges. And one of the guys spoke up and said, hey, Sue, what do you do for fun? What have you done for fun? And it was such an important moment. It was such an important moment because Siri's talking to me, because the truth was nothing. She was doing nothing for fun. You guys were made to have fun. We need the laughter. We need the break. Laughter, laughter, laughter is good medicine. There's nothing like having a good laugh, which increases endorphins in the brain. Those are your feel-good chemicals. But the other thing about recreation, I used to be a kindergarten teacher. I mentioned that earlier. Play is important because we learn things during play. And I used to be a child therapist, and the parents would always say, well, you just go there and play. There's a lot of learning that takes place during play. We're learning about cooperation. We're learning about our own skill set. Sometimes, if we're playing at a sport or whatever it happens to be, we're learning. So don't think that play is useless. And my video is different, but if you went to Roger Walsh's website, 8 Ways to Wellbeing, his video on play is hysterical. Check it out. You'll laugh. You'll have a good laugh, and that good laugh is going to be really important for you. Play games. You can play games. Adults can play games. You can play games with your kids. Find a way to have some fun in your life and some good laughs. And spirituality. Well, there's so many different ways to have a spiritual practice. Some people are very devoted to their religious life, and I think that's a wonderful thing. It's been a wonderful thing in my life. I have been an avid churchgoer in my life, and not just lots and lots of churches. I'm pretty open about whatever it happens to be. And some of the most wonderful church experiences I've had have been when I'm traveling and I show up some place where I don't know anybody, and it's one time I ended up in downtown LA at the First Church of God in Christ Pentecostal, and there were all tambourines and drums, things that don't happen in my very staid Presbyterian church. I loved it. It was great, and I met fabulous people. So it's a wonderful way. If it's your way, that's great. I had a recent experience. I was a reader at a bat mitzvah. It was deeply, deeply spiritual moment for me to be invited to do that and to participate in that ceremony. So find a way to have spirituality, not necessarily religion, in your own life. See what that means to you. It really has to do with, and you'll see this if you watch my video, what do you believe in terms of the higher power? What is a higher power to you? The higher power has 1,000 names and remains the nameless one, you know? So find your own connection to the divine through prayer, through meditation, through some other way of being. Some people tell me that nature is their God. And boy, I get that. Nature's a pretty wonderful God. So I encourage you to have a spiritual practice. Sometimes I gave you the Oracle spiritual practice, his meditation on his breakfast tray in the morning, which is just the beginning because he's a monk. So he's doing monk stuff all day long. Lots of spiritual practice, but find your own way. Do an inspirational reading in the morning. It can be anything. I think some people tell me they write in their journal in the morning as a way to start the day, and that's their spiritual practice. And then they make some notes again in their journal at the end of the day. Find your way, and make sure that if somebody comes and says to you, "So what's your spiritual practice?" that you can actually describe it. Oh, here's what I do. And it brings me comfort, and I feel more centered and grounded when I do it, and I feel more connected to a power greater than myself. So I think that brings us to the very, very end. Roger found that at any given time, there were over 1 billion people on the planet who were suffering from some sort of a mental health challenge, one sort or another. In these times of an international pandemic, we have huge anxiety and depression. We have lost a lot. There's no question. We've lost a lot. People are suffering. They've lost jobs and lost people. You know, here in the United States, almost 200,000 people have died in this pandemic. It's incredible. So anxiety and depression is up. And we want to do whatever we can to hold on to and improve our mental health. And I've given you a beautiful roadmap. Now, I didn't talk much. You would have seen it in the film. I didn't talk much about my workbook, but I'm going to talk about that now. I wrote this workbook. It's called 8 Ways to Wellbeing for Recovering People. There are 2 ways that you can get it. You can get it from Amazon. If you get it from Amazon, which is fine with me, it is a cloth-bound version. It will lay flat, but you cannot fold it back on itself. My own preference is to buy it from me because mine are Wiro bound, you know, like a recipe book. And I like to be able to fold it back on itself. Amazon won't carry the Wiro binding. I found that late. Didn't matter to me. Either way is good. You can find me at drsonneeweedn.com, DRSONNEEWEEDN.com. And you can order it from my website. You can call me directly. I think on the very last slide, there's my address and phone number and email address and so forth. So you can certainly call me about it. I've had several treatment organizations have bought this workbook and its core curriculum for their program because they just believe this is such powerful work. And so it's designed to have what I call a rolling curriculum. You can start anywhere. There's no beginning, there's no end. There's introductory material that you should read. And then after that, if you say, you know what, I want to start on time in nature. I never get outdoors. I need to work on that. Then you start there. You start wherever you want to. Some people like to start where they're not very good. Some people like to start where I'm really good at this, but I want to really document it and improve it a little bit. Whatever you decide, it's up to you. A lot of charts in the back for keeping track. There's a lot of places to write about, you know, if you're at a place of resistance, write about your resistance. I don't want to do this exercise. I don't want to. And here's why I'm resisting. So I really think the workbook is fabulous. I've had people get it to work with their sponsee. A woman called me and said, I've been through these 12 steps with my sponsee about 2 dozen times. I need to do something and a little bit different. I'm gonna get this for her, and we're gonna work on this together. You can do it as an individual. I think it's best really with a buddy, but it can be anybody, or you can do it alone, or you can do it in a group. So it's meant to be a flexible tool. It's meant to be a tool that you can pick up and then maybe you put it away for a while and you bring it out again. And I'm glad you listened to me today. Thanks for listening. And I wish you good health through therapeutic lifestyle change. TLC's 8 Ways to Wellbeing for Recovering People. So if you have questions,
we do have a question, and this is a great one because it's so practical. At
Yep.
the beginning of the talk, you said that consistency is difficult. How do you go from the chaos of addiction to build consistency of ways of well-being into recovery life? That's a very, I'm sure your workbook helps, but
Yeah.
like if I'm just starting at this, how do I even like look at that? I've got some ideas too, but
Yeah, and I want to hear your ideas, Tammy. I think the workbook is a really wonderful tool because it does provide structure. At the beginning of recovery, just what you said, there's chaos. And one of the tasks is to bring order to the chaos. All right. So you're trying to establish some habits in your life to bring order to the chaos. Structure, structure, structure is the friend of recovery. So if you just had this workbook by your nightstand, it's best if you had a buddy. If you have a buddy that'll do it with you, that is ideal. Because a lot of times I know, like, if I have a walking partner and I know that at 6:30 in the morning they're out there waiting for me, I'm much more likely to get out of bed and get my walking shoes on. But if I'm by myself, I might just lay there a little longer and look at Facebook and find a million reasons I can't do it. So if at all possible, have a buddy, because I think that'll really, really help with your commitment. But I would just say it's good to start this workbook with reading the introduction. And I think the introduction will help you because it helps you to set an intention. An intention is critical. If I intend and I write it down on a piece of paper and I share that with a friend, this is my intention. And by gosh, I'm going to do this. I'm much more likely to get it done. So you probably ought to have a place that you keep the workbook. For example, if you're going to use it, on your nightstand, that's what would work for me, or on your desk, at home or at work, someplace where you're going to see it every single day, every single morning. And get clear about your intention. And then there, in the introductory material, it says, who are you? Who's going to be with you in this? Who is going to be on your side and on your team? Could be one person, it could be 10 people. The people that will check in with you, maybe do it with you, hold you accountable, ask you, how are you doing with that food plan? How's it going? Yeah, I know you ate that candy bar. So what? Tomorrow's another day. Let's get with it. Let's plan it out. So I think that can really, really help because you're right. There is such chaos. Choose one thing. Sometimes with chaos, it's like it's all over the place. And I'm trying to get these kids and I'm trying to, pick one thing. Pick the easiest thing. Don't pick the hardest thing. Pick the easiest thing. I just do that naturally. If I have a to-do list, I'll do the easiest things first because it gives me a sense of accomplishment. Okay, I binged off those 3 phone calls. Now I can get to a little bit harder thing. So pick the easiest category for you. If your food is a wreck, don't pick that one. Pick the thing that's easier. Maybe it's recreation and having fun. I don't know. Pick the one that's the easiest and do that chapter first. Because we do not build on failure, we build on success. And again, I learned this when I was a kindergarten teacher. I had to start with kids who were really not able to do very much. And if they could roll the ball to me on the ground, after a while they could toss the ball to me. But we were going to start with rolling it, all right? So that's my metaphor. Start by rolling the ball instead of trying to toss it, and do it in a way that you're pretty sure you're going to be able to succeed because we're going to build on success. When they say in recovery 1 day at a time, sometimes it's 1 second at a time, in case you haven't noticed. And you're just building on the success of that last minute so that you can get the next minute of success. And the more success you have, the more success you're going to have. So I hope that's helpful. Why don't you add to that, Tammy?
Well, intentionality was exactly mine, and I have apps. So for my spiritual practice, I have an app that I open, and I'm an addict. It works great for me because I have a streak going, and it tells me every day, and I add to that, and I'm competitive enough that like that's very motivating for me. And I made sure that this particular app has a set amount of time, so it's not like I'm taking 3 hours out of my day. But I was intentional. That's the first thing I do in the morning, and that's good. And I live in Arizona, but I go let the dog out. I sit outside. I do my app, and then I like that's intention is how I started. My fitness, you mentioned, I am a runner. I am a hiker.
You're so good at that.
It is what saved it. Honestly, it saved my sanity, especially during COVID. But I've been handed my running shoes a long time ago. My husband was like, why don't we talk after you get back from a run? And I was like, and then like, I zen down, like you talked about people are more creative after they've done mindfulness. My running and walking, I'm intentional. I'm looking at nature. I'm making sure I'm looking, at, you talked about creatures. I saw a javelina yesterday when I ran, so I've seen Roadrunner. I mean, I see stuff, and I'm intentionally looking. I'm not just, pounding down the pavement to check it off my list. So the intentionality and being very specific, but even with food, like I struggled with sugar. Sugar was the last hurrah. I mean, I absolutely was resistant, and finally have made, some major progress with it. But even if I had to be intentional about, well, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to, for me, it was, I can't have dessert right after lunch. Honest to God, that was like, I had to start somewhere with that one. And, so it was picking one thing on that particular aspect. So it isn't like I'm going to, go from, eating every packaged thing to eating 100% organic. It was like choosing one thing. And, and then, like you said, success builds on success. And I was like, okay, I did that. Don't punish myself. I'm not good or bad, like I'm not bad because I ate a candy bar. It's like, I could have done that better. I'm going to choose differently tomorrow, whatever, but not going down the, I'm, complete failure and why try, So just being intentional of like, I'm going to mostly, but accountability. I loved your idea of having to, like, if I'm doing different things, I may have somebody who's really good at the exercise, and I'm going to be accountable with them. I do have somebody who is really helpful at guiding me in spirituality. Like she's my go-to person when I've got stuff about that. So I have different people who help, guide me, and help me be intentional. So great stuff though, Sonnee. So grateful.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So for those of you, if please do download the slide, but her website is Dr. DrSonneeWeedn.com. You'll find more information, but check out that YouTube 8 Ways to Wellbeing. If you just type that in YouTube, 8 Ways to Wellbeing, it pulls it up and you can watch it. 15 minutes, great information.
It's so great. The video is so great. I really want them to see it.
Yeah, I concur. I watched it. I just think it's such a practical for us addicts who are chaos to go, we're just going to be intentional. We're going to look at all these areas one at a time, but can I do a little bit better today? Probably.
I also want to tell you a fun thing to you, Tammy, and to the audience about that video, because you'll be able to watch for it. It opens with Dr. Roger Walsh, and you get to see Roger, which is kind of fun since this is his research, and I am lucky. I didn't have to do the research. Roger handed it to me and said, see what you can do with it. And by the way, he wrote the foreword to the workbook. But I do not remember ever mentioning that my mentor, who introduced me to Roger, was a woman named Dr. Angeles Arian. I don't remember ever mentioning that to the filmmaker. But after you see Roger, you're going to see a woman in a red suit, and that is Angeles.
Oh, wow.
And when I saw that film, I said to Scotty Avalos, the filmmaker, how did you know about Angela's to put her in? He goes, oh, I don't know. So I showed the film to Roger and I said, Roger, you're not going to believe this. There's Angie. Now Angie's deceased. She
Oh,
is gone to
wow.
heaven, but there she is in my video. It's like such a special miracle, you know? So I really wanted the audience to know that when you see the woman in the red suit, she was my mentor and she miraculously, angelically showed up in the video. It's
I'm
pretty
going to go
fun.
back and rewatch that because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't know that part of the story. So.
yeah, yeah.
So thank you. I know it was a little traffic challenges and things like that. Thanks for
I
showing up.
skidded up to the curb and
Yes.
flipped on the computer.
Yes, you did a great job. It's
Thanks.
recorded. Those joining us, I'll send you the link when we have it too. So
Great.
grateful, lovely to see you. I haven't
Lovely
seen
to
you in
see you,
ages.
Tammy.
So
Lovely to see you too.
thanks everybody. Dr. Rob will be on at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Prodependence. See you shortly. Thanks everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.